The God of War series has more than its fair share of monsters, boss battles, evil gods, legendary creatures, and titanic fights. So, when the new installment was announced in 2016, there was a lot to be excited about. After I got past my first question of, how is Kratos still alive? It was then followed up by, where was the game going to take place? What kind of story was even left to tell after Kratos had killed every god, monster, person, and plant in all of Greece? Who or what could stand in his way?
Come on out! There's no use hiding anymore.
To be completely transparent, I was not looking forward to the new story. The original God of War trilogy is still a favorite of mine, and the poor thing had been milked harder than Clotho from the second game. I was tired of the spin-offs and prequels that elaborated on a story which, I felt, had been told to completion by a studio too afraid to take a chance on the next big thing. Kratos was a tragic hero who, after achieving all that he had ever sought, still chose to end his own life because of both his rage and self-loathing. What I did not expect, especially after the game studio had been silent for a few years, was that they would take this idea, the idea of a god killer still haunted by decades of being a monster, reboot it, and change the entire tone from a story of tragedy to one of redemption, all by changing one key element. Before we get started, please make sure to like and subscribe to the channel for more content like this. Upon first meeting Baldur, we are presented with a number of questions, some of which get answered fairly quickly, and the others which we are left to contemplate. We learn he's some sort of a god, with the strength to match Kratos, and a body like a rock, made out of other rocks and dipped in adamantium. We know that he was sent by the Allfather, which, even not knowing Norse mythology, sounds like a pretty important guy. What we don't know is who he is, or why he is after Kratos, and this is concerning, because the stranger is eerily similar to him. He is marked by tattoos, seems invincible, he's strong enough to punch a man through a mountain, and he has the stones to call Kratos slow and old. You know, Kratos. The man that made Hercules into a pancake, stole Hermes' shoes, and used Helios as a flashlight. Whoever this stranger is, he dismissed a lot of the apprehension I had going into the game. There was still someone able to oppose Kratos, even though the Greek pantheon was gone. In storytelling, a villain sets the tone and trajectory just as much as the main character, because the villain is who our hero must overcome in order to achieve their goal. However, at story's onset, Kratos and Atreus don't exactly have a goal. They are meant to take Faye's ashes to the tallest mountain, but Kratos decides that his son is not ready, which stops the story. Refusing the call to adventure is not uncommon in storytelling, but then a force, in this case Baldur, must shove our hero unwillingly on their way. Baldur is the one who convinces Kratos that his son is no longer safe. Baldur is the one who sets the story in motion. And it would be one thing for Baldur to just be a strong and intimidating force like his brother Thor becomes in the second game. However, what is doubly impressive about Baldur in relation to Kratos are the ways in which he comes to mirror our protagonist. At story's onset, we don't have a full understanding as to why Baldur is after Kratos. We have little more than his physical attributes. Tattoos which, when translated, are dark reminders of his past, a body which seemingly cannot be destroyed, and a physical power beyond measure. We understand by the end of the story that Baldur is a tracker for Odin, sent on a mission to find the last remaining giants, both Faye and Atreus. But what we better come to understand and by we I mean myself on my 4th or 5th time watching this game, is that Baldur was not simply following orders. He was looking for something himself. From playing the game, we understand that Baldur is tortured by his blessing/curse of invulnerability. He cannot die, but he can't experience most of his life either. On finding Kratos, Baldur does not seem to be looking for a giant. He is speaking directly to Kratos, stating,
I know who you are.
What's going on? Do you know him?
More importantly, I know what you are.
he is the Ghost of Sparta, the God Killer. If anyone is going to be able to make Baldur feel again, it is Kratos. Why this matters in terms of storytelling is because it gives Baldur a reason for his actions. Like a main character needs a reason for taking action, a villain should also have some reason for obstructing our hero. On the one hand, Baldur is hunting Kratos and Atreus on orders from Odin, but on the other hand, and more intimate to Baldur's character, is the man's desire to find release from his curse, his desire to feel pain, or even find death. I think this is why Baldur is so antagonistic during his first scene. He isn't strictly there on Odin's orders. He isn't just looking for a giant.
You do not want this fight.
Oh, I'm pretty sure I do.
It's also why I think he's mumbling to himself after Kratos socks him in the face. We, as audience members, think that he's made a huge mistake, when in reality, Baldur has realized that Kratos can't hurt him. His life of torment will continue despite having found the notorious God Killer. With this understanding of Baldur's character, a man cursed by eternal life, we can now come to understand 1. His motivations for the remainder of the game, 2. His function as a character foil to Kratos, and 3. His warning about the potential path Atreus might take due to an overbearing parent. Like Kratos, Baldur has a troubled past which has provided him with both invulnerability and the warped mind of a madman. This revelation comes through in Freya's story of her son, who we don't know at the time is Baldur, and then again during Baldur's visions while in Helheim. Freya tells Kratos about a prophecy in which her son was seen dying a needless death. Understandably, as a new and loving parent, Freya is terrified at the thought that her son will die and decides to bless him with invulnerability. This overprotection is what ultimately drives Baldur away. Her story comes at a time in Kratos' adventure in which he too is overprotective of his son. This establishes a parallel between Freya and Baldur to Kratos and Atreus. It illustrates one of the ways that Kratos' failure to expose his son to a harmful truth may still lead to the boy's unnecessary destruction. When we see Baldur's confrontation with Freya on becoming invulnerable, several things become evident. We are able to see how Baldur, a younger, less mentally tormented Baldur, acted towards his mother. He pleads with her to undo the spell. More than his need for vengeance or his anger, Baldur wants to feel, to be whole again. This uncorrupted Baldur shows mercy towards his mother, while the twisted, current version of the god throws punches at his former self and at Freya, calling himself a coward. As an audience member, especially as an audience member that has presumably played the original God of War trilogy, we understand that what Baldur did in sparing his mother was not cowardly at all. Knowing the lengths Kratos went to for his revenge, knowing how tortured Kratos was after having been denied release from his nightmares, we sympathize with Baldur's torment, and we admire that, at one time, the god did something noble. He looked past his own selfish need for revenge in order to spare his mom. Compare this to the Kratos from the original trilogy, a man so hell-bent on revenge that I'm not sure if any characters beyond Aphrodite survived the third game. He was a man driven mad by his need for vengeance, a man much like the tormented version of Baldur that he faces now. Thematically, not only does Baldur represent everything Atreus might become should Kratos botch his job as a parent, he also represents everything Kratos was: unbridled power, indiscriminate rage, and a fury that didn't end even when Kratos had attained everything that he had ever wanted. This is a critical and deadly characteristic of both Baldur and Kratos, because, as we'll see, attaining a goal does not matter if the person themselves does not change. What the scene in Helheim shows us about Baldur is that the god has changed for the worse since Freya granted him immortality. Whereas the younger Baldur granted his mother mercy, our current Baldur wants his mother dead. In the previous scene, when Baldur is attempting to open the gate to Asgard, he threatens to kill Atreus if Kratos does not let him go. Baldur later refuses to spare his mother after Kratos warns him about the path he is on. And, even at story's end, when Baldur's curse has been lifted and he can feel again, he celebrates for what? Maybe 3 seconds before recommitting to killing everyone? Honestly, think about that. After a century of looking for something to break his spell, Baldur can't even enjoy it when it happens. He doesn't thank Atreus, as weird as that might have been. He doesn't think to experience anything, like food or warmth or a woman. He is so dead set on revenge and murder because of how he was wronged, that being free doesn't even register to him. Baldur, while understandably wanting the ability to feel again, has become so warped through his torment and need for revenge that he still cannot feel anything beyond rage and bitterness when all is said and done. He is too far gone, and it's heartbreaking. Because Baldur is both a warning for Atreus' potential future and a reminder of everything Kratos used to be, we are close to him. We sympathize with him. We pity him because we know all too well how he got to where he is now, and we know that we care about who he was and who he could become should he choose to change. It is in forsaking the opportunity to change that Baldur is truly condemned to death. But what is more important, thematically speaking, is that he is foregoing the opportunity to enjoy his life again. No, choosing to enjoy his life wouldn't have been easy, but it never is. It's not easy to change from a god killer to a good father. It's not easy to change from a sick mortal to a god. It's not easy to change from an individual person with selfish desires to a parent that can put those desires aside for the benefit of their child, but it beats the alternative. What we see through Baldur is the inability to fathom this choice, because all the small joys of being alive have been stripped from him for so long. Once Baldur has made this second choice to pursue his revenge, he again forces our heroes to take action, working together to overcome the worst possible versions of themselves. And this is precisely what a great villain should accomplish in a story and for the audience. Every action Kratos and Atreus take is related to the pressure imposed by Baldur's presence. The need to leave home? Baldur. The wedge that drives them apart? Baldur. The embodiment of their worst selves and a reminder of their need to change? Baldur. All the while, as we audience members come to better understand this villain, we hate him less and less until we come to realize that what Kratos and Atreus are fighting are the worst aspects of themselves. Baldur is the ultimate match for the Ghost of Sparta, and the ultimate crucible for Atreus' character, because he is both heroes. It is because of one another that both of our heroes have a reason to change. It is because of their love of the other person that they are willing to risk a part of themselves, be vulnerable, and overcome the dark trajectory Baldur represents. Ultimately, what differentiates the old god killer, the young god of chaos, and Baldur is not the opportunity to change, but the willingness to make a change, to make the choice to be better.